What kind of red flags should people look out for? Because there are a lot of horror stories of, well, I paid this guy $20,000 and then he disappeared.
I've personally been bit by some of that in my lifetime. Paying a large down payment for a pool that they wait 90 days in order to start your project because they already got your money and they don't care. Somebody that's demanding a lot of cash up front beyond, especially the purchase of the materials, that's probably a red flag to be watching out for. Watching out for people that are not very responsive. If they're not answering their phones, not very professional. Bad reviews. But you also need to be careful when you look at those reviews. Are they reviewing the same kind of work that you're looking to have completed? Or, are you really engaging with the right contractor type for what you're trying to make sure you've got a good resource for?
Thanks for joining us on another REI-NWA podcast. This is episode number 64, and we are going to be digging into finding and screening contractors, going along with one of our upcoming Rookie Nook programs. As always, my name is Coley Bailey, principal broker at Lone Rock Realty, and today I'm going to reintroduce you to John Green.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, good to see you. So you were on episode 31 last time, and we did like the Zoom video version of this, so it's kind of nice to have you in studio this time.
Much nicer.
Yep. So if you haven't seen episode 31, highly encourage you to go back and check that out, hear John's whole history and everything. But he is with CBI as a business broker. What does that stand for again?
Confidential Business Intermediaries.
Okay. And one of the businesses that you ended up buying personally was Ace Handyman Services.
Correct.
Right. So we're going to dig in a little bit into Ace Handyman. We're going to dig into how to find good contractors, how to make that a part of your team as you grow as an investor. It's really important. So let's just get started with that. How did Ace Handyman Services come about? The history of it.
Certainly, Coley. So back in 2008, Ace Handyman Service was actually founded as Handyman Matters by Steve Langton. And he operated the business until 2022 when I acquired it from him. A couple years prior to that, Ace Hardware Services felt like they would really benefit from having a group of craftsmen able to perform the work that people are buying their products in their stores. Mm-hmm. And so they thought it would be a great partnership, and I agree.
Yeah.
And so they bought Handyman Matters and converted it to Ace Handyman Services.
Okay.
And so we operate under that. They're a parent company. I'm the franchise owner for Northwest Arkansas and a little bit beyond that.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. So I'm guessing when you're sourcing parts and materials and things, a lot of that's going to go through Ace.
We try to when it makes sense, but ultimately we serve our customers. So we're going to buy. We don't want our guys chasing all over town trying to find parts. We're going to go to the closest location that we can source the products that we need in order to install. And when that's Ace Handyman or Ace Hardware, we certainly will do that.
Yeah. Okay. So what kind of services do you provide? Is it just a select few, or what is it?
So that is the real key to Ace Handyman Services. I like to say, one call, we fix it all.
Okay.
So whether it is reinstalling new screens on a window, to fixing that drywall repair that's a punched hole in the door, to a bathroom remodel and everything in between. The craftsmen that we employ generally have 25 years of experience under their belts.
Wow.
And in that time, they've been, tile layers, framers, generalists, everything from installing ceiling fans to fixing tile, to laying hardwood floors, to framing up a room. The beauty of Ace is my guys will come in there, and if you've got a punch list as a realtor, 8 different skill sets, they generally can handle it.
Yeah, and there are several different times that somebody would do that if they're selling a property. I always advise get that done before, get that punch list before you ever have a buyer, and then put it in the market ready to go. It makes the selling process so much easier. But yes, I mean, of course you're going to get those punch lists occasionally. So that's a great resource.
Yeah, and that's probably one of the other differentiators we have with Ace Handyman Services is we target trying to be able to respond to a customer's request within 3 days.
Okay.
So you call me on Monday, I hope to be out there by Thursday effecting the repair.
Yeah, nice. Fantastic. So then from the investor side, whether you're buying, let's say it's a short-term rental, you're buying an Airbnb, and you're buying a property that's got some potential but isn't quite there, doesn't quite have all the unique features and things that you'd like to put in. Sounds like you guys could come in and look at that vision and help put it all together.
Certainly, it depends on the extent. You obviously, I know you've got some investors. They're looking to gut a house,
right?
And if it's minor repairs, if it's several days worth of work, we certainly are very capable of it. But a lot of times, if you get too far involved, so if you're taking it down to the studs, we're probably not your best option. But I'll tell you, you can give us a call and we can evaluate it, and we're more than happy to refer you to a qualified actual contractor that's more. It's going to be more in a price range you're going to find acceptable because we're more the hot shot of the industry. Our guys are able to come in, get it in, get out, and get done quickly. But there's an expense to that.
Yeah, and different investors have different needs for these services, right? So obviously, yes, if you're flipping a house, taking it down to the studs, redoing everything, making it look like $1 million, you probably will fall into having a general contractor that can start doing those things for you and kind of be part of that team. Where I think your services might fit in better is on the kind of the long-term buy and holds, the rentals, doing those rent flips. You're always going to run into issues there where unless you just had an angelic tenant in there, a lot of times there's going to be a leaky faucet, a doorknob that's loose, windows missing screens, sheetrock repairs, all those kinds of things before you flip for that next tenant. So it's always nice to have that. And even along the way, when you get those tenant calls, and they're saying, hey, the plumbing's not working, or this isn't working, or that, things like that. So are there any specific things that your team just really won't touch? Maybe just not licensed for that, or things like that?
Certainly, we work very closely with both electricians and plumbers because those are highly technical type of jobs that require licenses to complete those kinds of projects. If it's outside the wall, we generally can help somebody with it. We can install a garbage disposal. We
plugging things in and out.
Absolutely,
bulbs, maybe things like that.
But things that are specifically oriented around plumbing, for example, we do a lot of bathroom remodels, but when it comes to aligning the drain, we're going to call in a plumber to make sure that drain is properly aligned so that it properly drains and flows, and the valve is properly installed, that kind of thing.
Okay. Yeah, and you always want to make sure you've got somebody who's licensed, bonded, and insured for that particular task. And they train, they're highly educated on those particular things. Yep, absolutely. Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about how an investor should think about building their network of tradespeople and contractors, as they grow in their investing. What are some of the questions they should be asking contractors when they first meet them to kind of vet them out a little bit?
Well, I think one of the things for any of us looking to do a project is for us to kind of ask ourselves the basic questions. What are our priorities in this project? Is it time? Is it quality of work? Is it cost? Those are all things that compete with each other.
Right.
And so, me as an individual, I may have a different project that has different priorities. And so understanding what my priority is may dictate who I'm calling or may dictate what are things I'm really looking for.
Somebody told me one time, you can have cheap, fast, or good.
You just can't have all three.
You can't have all three.
Exactly.
You can have two of them, but you can't have all three.
Exactly.
Right.
So, knowing that, going in with that, because, their projects are going to vary, from, the quick fix versus that thing you're going to depend on for years. Is if you're a property manager, you want to make sure that sink is installed properly. You're going to be dealing with a headache for the tenant's lifetime with you. And so knowing what you're looking for, and then, ideally you do develop some of those relationships. We would love it if it's with Ace Handyman Services. But if it's not, or your design is such that you're working with somebody that is outside of our specialty on a regular basis, I would definitely, you touched on some of them. Can you get a personal referral? Is this somebody else that does business with them, that trusts them, that they've earned their trust, that you can go to, so you're not going out blindly. Licensed, insured, certainly a couple of the key elements. You want to make sure that you're protecting your property, yourself from liability. Because somebody gets hurt on your property and they're not insured, it's on you, and it's a dangerous place to put yourself. I would say, those are a couple of the critical things.
What kind of red flags should people look out for? Because there are a lot of horror stories of, well, I paid this guy $20,000 and then he disappeared.
Yeah, I've personally been bit by some of that in my lifetime. Paying a large down payment for a pool that they wait 90 days in order to start your project because they already got your money and they don't care. That was my personal experience. But, somebody that's demanding a lot of cash up front beyond, especially the purchase of the materials, that's probably a red flag to be watching out for. Watching out for people that are not very responsive. If they're not answering their phones, not very professional, so one of those areas to watch out for. Bad reviews. We're a business, that we focus heavily on our Google reviews, and it's just most businesses do today. They're a necessary evil, but they're a great resource that a lot of people use to evaluate job performance. But you also need to be careful when you look at those reviews. Are they reviewing the same kind of work that you're looking to have completed? Or, are you really engaging with the right contractor type for what you're trying to make sure you've got a good resource for?
Yeah, and sometimes give a little grace with those reviews because typically people are highly motivated to leave a negative review and then they kind of skip out when they have a great experience. It's hard to actually get people to do a positive review sometimes. Or just, it's not because they didn't have a positive experience, it's just because it's not important to them because the job's done and they don't have a problem anymore.
But if they've been around a while, that's another thing is seasoned. Is this a seasoned professional? Is it somebody you can see evidence that they've been around for a while? Or are they kind of fly by night? I know, here in Northwest Arkansas, we went from having about 6 roofing companies to having 30 roofing companies in one hailstorm. And, not all those guys are still around here today. Right.
Yeah, they tend to show up when the storms show up, and then they tend to leave when everything calms down.
Their phones don't get answered.
Right. Yep. So just out of curiosity, are there any things that you guys do to generate those positive reviews and any little customer touch points that are kind of, the cherry on top?
Certainly, Coley. I think back to a couple of years ago, I was visiting a client out in the boondocks a little bit, out near Van Buren area, and I pulled up the driveway, and the lady comes out the front door, and she's just like, she turns back to her husband in the house and says, "He showed up." And I was thoroughly surprised, I was like, but that's a problem out there, is craftsmen just or service people just don't show up for the work. And part of the way we ensure that we're showing up is, we have office staff that are there answering the phone, and they're scheduling the appointments. And then the night before, our craftsmen, part of our service path is they're going to call that customer, make sure that they got all the appropriate equipment and materials they need in order to perform the service. Then the next day, when they actually head out to the project, they basically set a flag saying, and it will send a text to the customer saying we're on our way. Mm-hmm. And so once they arrive with that customer, they're going to evaluate the job that's, the list of tasks that they're there to do, make sure that it lines up with the estimate that was provided. And if it doesn't, they're going to discuss that with the customer, make sure everybody's on the same page before we even get started. Yeah. And then when they're done with the day, the customer is going to get to review that estimate. They're going to, basically be able to sign off on that right there. Let us know if there's additional work that we need to do or can do for them. We'd love to make sure that, especially if we pre-booked a half a day and let's say we only needed 3 hours to do it, what is there anything else we can do, to fill that additional time or, discount it, accordingly. So, it's just a matter of making sure that we're meeting the needs of the customer. That's what we're all about.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, sounds good. Well, I think there's going to be a wealth of information you're going to be able to share. You're going to get a lot of good questions, I think, at this program coming up. And so, I'm excited for this. This is going to be great. This is our Rookie Nook program on June 26th, 2025. Come on out to Whole Hog, get some barbecue, and network with everybody. Doors will open at 5:30. We'll get started at 6, and it's going to be a good time.
Look forward to seeing you there.
It's one of my favorite programs that we do every month is the Rookie Nook. It always brings out a lot of new faces, and so it's a lot of fun. All right.
Thank you, Coley.
Thanks, John. Thanks for joining us on this episode, and we will catch you on the next one.